Good morning. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. It's good to be here with you. I'm Barbara Stroup. I'm a member of the Worship Associates team here at the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Clemson. Each week, this community comes together to participate in worship, music, and reflection. This is where we seek to have our hearts opened and our imaginations fired. This is the place that reminds us that we are deeply connected to one another and all living things. This fellowship is a religious community grounded in the heritage and the principles of Unitarian Universalism. We seek to create loving community, inspire joy and play, and spiritual growth, and support courageous action. All are welcome regardless of religious background, political persuasion, ethnicity, age, ability, sexual orientation, or gender identity or expression. If you have a desire to explore questions of truth and meaning and are respectful of our diversity of people and beliefs, you've found kindred spirits here. If you'd like more information about this fellowship or about Unitarian Universalism in general, please see our webpage, UUFC.org. And we have a weekly newsletter. We hope you will sign up for it by contacting our office. And we especially want to welcome any visitors with us this morning. And if you would care to stand up at this point and introduce yourselves, we would be happy to hear from you. I'll wait just a minute to see if anybody takes the bait. Okay. And we also extend a special welcome to our viewers in TV land. We have announcements on the back of your order of service, fewer than usual, because we're sort of slowing down a bit in the summer, but there are some hikes coming up and some other great activities for you to take part in. Elaine has a special announcement for you this morning.
Okay. I'm going to try to do this, read and see you at the same time. Anyway, you'll be seeing these posters around the fellowship building. I hope you will take note of them. We are having a film on the 12th. It's called Cooked Survival by Zip Code. It is a film about a tragic event that happened in Chicago when the temperature soared to well over 100 degrees. And it was a disaster for the city of Chicago. And what this movie is about is calling our attention to the fact that we will all be experiencing disasters if the climate change continues as it is. This is a movie in preparation for the service that Dave Sanders and Bill Brule are doing on July the 21st. And I hope you will come and watch this movie and also come on that Sunday, because I think they'll have some interesting things to say. Thank you.
And please rise as you are able to sing hymn number 398.
Thank you, Barbara. Hello, everyone. My name is Alan Goldsmith, and I am your worship leader today, filling in for our minister, Reverend Holly Brown, who is recovering from recent surgery. Reverend Holly, if you are watching, I hope this is just what the doctor ordered to help speed you on your recovery. This marks the first time since my bar mitzvah 67 years ago that I'm speaking from a pulpit in a house of worship. Because I'm hard of hearing, I'm usually found in the front row, where my field of view is restricted to mostly those conducting the service. Here, though, I get to take in all of you, all of your faces, clown noses and all, and see at once the beloved community that is our greatest strength. That's what makes this spot easily the finest seat in the house. Now, before we get any further into our program, I have a word of caution for our first-time visitors. The clown noses you were offered upon arrival and this jacket I'm decked out in are not a usual Sunday morning occurrence here at UUFC. Now, whether this is a relief to you or a disappointment, I have no idea. But please know that you are welcome here no matter how you've responded. To reiterate what Barbara has said, we are a fellowship that is open to anyone who shares our search for truth and meaning and wishes to live in peace and harmony with all creation. In this service, I will be playing a more limited role than our minister usually does, in deference to others much more talented than I. Our opening words will be read by Wei, whom I like to think of as UUFC's ambassador to all that is hip. At least for me he is. And a master of spoken word performance. Ray, the pulpit is yours.
Okay, thank you. These are the opening words by Reverend Gretchen Haley. Whatever beat is moving through your bones, whatever holy disturbance is rising in your chest, whatever good word you've got for the good of the whole, clap it, snap it, sing it, hum it, dance it, bring it out, call it out, take the beat, send it, scribe it, imbibe it, democratize it, immortalize it, imagine it, and make it yours. Gathered here in this sweet beauty, this power, bring out all you are and let it out. Let us not waste time. Let us make a joyful noise, a more interesting sound, a fuller call, a greater yes. Say it with me, yes. 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 Call it out. Call out hello. Amen. And peace unto you. Woohoo! Howdy do. Hi, y'all. And oh yeah, and yes. Yes. Sing for justice. Sway in hope. Play with purpose. This time is precious. You are precious. And all of us, this chance is a gift. Each breath is a gift. Being all together is a gift. Let's celebrate. Find a new rhythm. Write a new song. Make a new march. For this longing, this dreaming, this discovery, for the urgent call of this day, for courageous love, let it ring out. Come, let us worship together.
Is Cody here? Cody, can you come up and help light the chalice? Thank you. Thank you. Now let us recite our fellowship's affirmation that is printed in the order of service. We gather together in a spirit of love with justice as our guide. This is our chosen covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth with freedom, and to care for one another. Karen Hiebel, our Director of Lifespan Faith Formation, usually reads a children's story at this point that is related to our service's theme. Today, we'll still be hearing a story, but it will look a little different. You, that is all of you collectively, will be the storytellers. It's called One Word at a Time Story, and this is how it works. Karen will be bringing around a mic, and when she comes to you, please say one word that will advance the narrative. If the first person says, for example, the next person might follow with train, balloon, evening, it's up to you. If the first person starts off with it, the next person might say was, or seemed, or arrived, whatever comes to mind. The choice of words is entirely up to you, but remember, you can only suggest a single word when it's your turn. If you're stumped or your mind goes blank, it's fine to pass without saying anything. Got that? Okay. The mics in the social room unfortunately won't work for this exercise, so anyone sitting there now who wants to participate is invited to join us here in the sanctuary. Please observe standard grammar rules, civility, polite language, when considering your contribution to this magnum, or rather mini opus. If it seems appropriate, you can offer up a punctuation mark rather than a word. Have fun, but understand that this is a cooperative effort. Better to make things easy for the person after you rather than more difficult. The narrative should flow as seamlessly as any good piece of literature does. That wasn't meant to be a joke. It may be that the story will come to its logical end before we get to everyone, in which case we may start another story or come up with a one word at a time moral to the tale we just completed. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, let's get started.
Surprisingly,
The
crocodile
snapped
on
flowers blooming
stillness.
I just want to point out that a writer was passed just now.
stillness. Awaken. In.
the
Quiet.
Breeze.
carefully.
After. On. On.
Hot? What was the last word? Sun.
Hot sun. Day. I think coherence is kind of getting to be a.
Moon.
Period. We have a run-on going here.
But
After.
The. Rainstorm.
the
dreamed,
Forever.
Was.
However.
Old. And.
Nevertheless.
crocodile,
Really?
Ends. Exclamation mark.
Exclamation mark.
Are we done? Give ourselves a round of applause. Barbara was scribing it, so we'll soon have printed copies for you for this bestseller. Phew. Now we set aside time for an offering that helps secure the financial vitality of this community. Also, 25% of the undesignated collection each week goes to a charitable or service organization in the local community. For June, we have been partnering with Ripple of One. Each week, we also collect non-perishable food for the Clemson Community Cares Food Bank. You may also give by going to the UUFC website and using the donate button. There you will see options for paying your pledge and donating towards our partner organizations. Thank you for your generosity. Okay. Here to speak about all things membership is Karen, the co-chair of our membership community.
Hey, good morning. I've been a member of UUFC for about 6 years, and because I've moved around a lot, I've been a member of 4 other UU fellowships prior to living here in this area. In each of these organizations, it's been friends and members who volunteer for board positions, committees, and different teams that keep these UU fellowships functioning and flourishing. It takes so much more than a successful pledge campaign and a balanced budget to be successful. Our congregants in this fellowship who pitch in are the lifeblood of UUFC. My biggest reason for volunteering here is that it feels good to support something that I believe and to feel like I make a difference doing that. I am here representing the membership committee, like Alan said, but I also work with the garden team, am a covenant group coordinator, and was on the search committee for Reverend Holly. As Alan said, Nancy Johnson, out here in the audience, is co-chair with me on membership. We staff the welcome table every Sunday, and Sarah was there earlier this morning to greet visitors and to give them a visitor packet. We invite them to hospitality afterward with the hope of getting to know them a little bit better. We organize and coordinate a class called UU and U, and we do this several times of the year. This is an orientation to our fellowship as well as an exploration of each participant's spiritual journey that led them to UUFC. We also help coordinate new membership recognition Sundays with Reverend Holly about once a year. And another important thing that comes out of our committee is the care committee. It's kind of an extension of membership with Sarah McNeil organizing meals with a number of other congregants and to provide meals for people who are in need, and occasionally providing rides to needed appointments. If you're interested in knowing more or possibly joining us, please contact Nancy or myself afterward. We are looking for new members and new energy. And also, if you're willing to spend 30 minutes prior to the service helping out at the welcoming table, that would be great. You don't have to be a member of the committee to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. If my voice isn't carrying, just raise. I've been told that it hasn't been. So if you're having trouble hearing me, just raise your hand and I'll try to speak louder. This is the place in the service where we are encouraged to share our joys and concerns. It is a sacred sharing that reminds us of our bonds and of the knowledge we are not alone. I've asked Barbara to place a stone in the bowl for each of the joys and concerns that are expressed. The vessel represents our shared community. We have only one joy, and this is from Carol Ward, who says, I have an apartment at Clemson Downs and will be moving soon with help. I assume she needs help. And we have her phone number and how to contact her. This final stone is for those more private thoughts held closer to the heart, and for everyone not present with us today. The children are welcome to stay for the remainder of the service or to explore the resources available in the religious education room now that our official youth program is closed for the summer. Shall we sing them on their way? Sorry, I was going to go with them. When I volunteered to give this sermon weeks ago, I didn't realize what a challenging task I had taken on. Having to say something serious about a subject that isn't normally known for its seriosity. That isn't a real word, of course, but it sounds like it should be one, shouldn't it? And since our theme this Sunday is adult play, I prefer to think of fractured English as poetic license. Bill Brule, one of our members, addressed the subject of play almost exactly 2 years ago. So please consider this a refresher course. It's not because you all failed the first time around, but because the importance of play is something that bears repeating in our driven, goal-oriented culture. In prepping for today, I was reminded of the games I played as a youngster. As I recount some of them, I invite you to go back in time and recall how you played as a child. I grew up in the Bronx, New York, in case you couldn't tell. During the 1940s and 1950s, in a very large apartment complex that was home to 12,000 families. Dumbo the elephant was my stuffed animal companion early on, which might explain why I had such an affinity for the Hindu god Ganesh while studying yoga many years later. Dumbo was joined by the likes of Howdy Doody, in case that's familiar, the Lone Ranger and Tonto on TV. I see people nodding their heads. And those brilliant detectives of adolescent literature, the Hardy Boys. In time, I also became a big fan of other TV heroes like Don Winslow of the Navy. Does that ring a bell? No? And Ace Drummond, the original Top Gun, who was instrumental in opening up Mongolian skies, of all places, to the International Airways Corporation. The show's stage scenes of monks spinning prayer wheels were my introduction to Buddhism. Sports were huge too. Softball, punchball, touch football, and basketball, all played outside on surfaces of hard cement. I practiced my hook and jump shots with a pair of rolled-up socks aimed at the open hopper window in the bedroom that I shared with my older sister. I want those back. You can't let... Oh! There were other games, too, that now make me shake my head in disbelief. Johnny on the Pony. Do they play that down south? Johnny on the Pony? It was a physical, I won't demonstrate. It was a physical contest that was surely designed by a chiropractor or orthopedic surgeon desperate for new patients. A game called Knucks, Knucks. That requires a demonstration. A deck in which a deck of cards became an instrument of torture to inflict on losing players. Like this, if you lost. Or scraping the knuckles with a fanned-out desk. Or sometimes going from the shoulder down. And Cowboys and Indians that I played with total cluelessness about guns and our treatment of Native Americans. My cousin Michael was the same age as me and lived in the next-door building. He and I were very jealous of Stephen Bass's fancy gun holster. We also dreamed of living together in a castle with a dog. From time to time, we dress up in our sisters' clothes, much to our parents' and siblings' amusement. It was all good fun, and remained so many decades later, when I donned the dress once again for last year's Halloween service at UUFC. This October, I propose that we have a big cross-dressing party to celebrate our hidden feminine or masculine sides. Do I hear a second? Okay. As I grew older, I played varsity soccer in high school and college. Or rather, I mostly sat on the bench in high school and started for a college team that had only 3 wins in 3 years, and maybe as many spectators in the stands. The literary and visual arts began to arouse my interest as well. Fancying myself as a theater of the absurdist writer, I had several pieces published in the high school literary magazine. Work whose cringiness became apparent the moment I reached adulthood. In college, I created Jules Pfeiffer-inspired posters for campus events and wrote a humor column for the student paper. By my junior year, academic subjects were taking second place to photography, extracurricular activities, and pranking the college administration whenever possible. That was what play had become by my late teens. It was an experience that I had in Boston, where I began graduate work in film in the late 1960s, that radically changed my understanding of play. I was waiting on a subway platform for a train to arrive when I noticed a handsome-looking bentwood rocking chair close by. Needless to say, it looked quite out of place. I asked its owner if he'd mind my sitting in it. He said not at all. And while rocking in that elegant chair alongside the tracks, my daily commute was utterly transformed. And I realized just how little it took to break through the boredom and social alienation that is ubiquitous in contemporary society. How easy it was to evoke the sense of wonder amidst the commonplace. It doesn't take millions of dollars or a trip to the Grand Canyon or Himalayas. It can happen in any backyard in Pickens County or on I-85, as long as our mindset is tuned to a playful frequency. The rocking chair episode inspired me to create Pedestrian Games, a modest precursor of today's flash mobs. Its goal was to bring unexpected delight and beguilement to public spaces using a multidisciplinary arts approach. Once, I walked around Logan Airport dressed as a typical traveler with luggage, except that I had a large pair of wings on my back. Just as people were getting used to me, a chaplainess-looking colleague would saunter by in a bowler hat and carrying a cane. An elderly man approached us, both to ask, I don't know which is crazier, to ask you why you were doing this, or not to ask you why. The question seemed central to what we were doing, but I didn't have an answer then. Today, I'd respond by saying, it's complexicated. To coin another new word that belongs in the dictionary. When I talk about play, what exactly am I referring to? Is it the same as playing poker or golf or going kayaking? Carl, you may not know this, but I was a dental technician in the U.S. Coast Guard. So if you ever run into dental problems on Lake Hartwell, feel free to call me. Is watching a sporting event play or hiking up a mountain? Sarah, there's a question I keep forgetting to ask you.
What's that?
I keep forgetting. Can I still go on a hula hike if I no longer own a hula hoop? Okay. Would I include in play shooting the breeze with friends over drinks, taking a cruise, gardening, or composing music? I'm looking at you, Carrie. Well, again, it's complexicated. Bill referred to what I have in mind as free play. Diane Ackerman, the poet and essayist, calls it deep play. And I'm inclined to say pure play, just because I like to be different. I see it as anything we do that isn't directly or indirectly tied to earning a living or survival. or which has any practical utility, say taking a cooking class. It's something we freely choose to do without the need to nurture or reinforce our identities. More often than not, it calls upon the creative and imaginative faculties, and evolution's gift for improvisation. Sometimes we travel alone, sometimes with others in a pact of openness and trust. The journey itself is our destination. The moment is where we hang out. Put another way, it's like skinny dipping into the deep unknown. Confident, we'll emerge from it refreshed and enlivened. I love this quote from a book whose abridged title is The Actor's Art and Craft by William Esper and Damon DeMarco. Quote, "When people are spontaneous, they are always charming. They're interesting to watch because they're really and truly alive. We never know what they'll do next because they never know what they'll do next. That's what's so captivating about them." To this, I would add that when people are sharing their authentic truth or selves, they can't help but be lovable. It's the psychological masks we wear, often for understandable reasons, and our social conditioning that frequently get us into trouble. As we age, we acquire knowledge, mastery, and responsibilities that then run the risk of calcifying our existence. The openness of childhood gradually narrows. The magic slowly disappears until we find ourselves repeating the same old, long-running scripts that never deviate from what we already know. On Broadway, they call in a script doctor to juice things up if the plot becomes too predictable. In real life, the script doctor I recommend is called play. It has a track record of making a moment come alive with new possibility, fresh insight, delight, and the sweet taste of renewal. Dr. Stuart Brown, founder of the National Institute for Play, explains that, quote, "We are biologically designed to play throughout our life cycle. The consequences of not doing so are rigidity, depression, and lack of adaptability, the exact opposite of traits like resiliency and acceptance that numerous studies have shown to be the key ingredients of healthy aging." End quote. Far from the world of academic research centers is the apocryphal story about the questions a village medicine man would ask someone who came to him when ill. When did you stop singing? When did you stop dancing? When did you stop being enchanted by stories? Can you imagine a doctor at Prisma doing that during an exam? And insurance paying for it? Maybe when we get Medicare for all. Numerous papers, articles, and books have been written about the benefits of play. But that is not a reason for making room for it in our lives. Then it becomes yet another goal for betterment, another item on our to-do list of everyday tasks. No, we engage in play because that is our nature when we are truly free. How we would have lived, perhaps, had we remained in the mythical Garden of Eden. Thinking of it this way is a far cry from the frivolity, superficiality, and childish escapism we normally associate with tapping into that playful vibe. Earlier this month, I convened a panel of experts on play, the children in this fellowship. Unfortunately, they've gone into the other room, so I can't ask them to take a bow. One of my questions to them was what I should tell their parents and other adults in the congregation when I gave my talk. Aurelia made a very profound point, I thought. Tell them anyone can have fun at any time. Anything can be turned into play. Since then, I followed her advice by taking up that childhood invention called pretend. If I'm eating breakfast on our porch along the Fifth Fairway at Boscobel, I imagine I'm really on the French Riviera. Driving on Clemson Boulevard, I picture myself as a visitor from outer space, wondering if those shiny blobs moving on either side of me are earthly forms of life. Barbara and I were at a restaurant last week where we spent some time pretending to be strangers on a first date. In one scenario, our imaginary couple was smitten with each other at first sight. In a second sketch, they were an obvious mismatch from the get-go. And both improvs were hilarious. We had so much fun. One might reasonably ask at this point, how can you extol the virtues of play in the face of the enormous suffering taking place on different levels throughout the world on a daily basis? How selfish can a person be? My answer to that is that in pure play, the heart can't help but open. And in that burst of exuberance, connection, understanding, and compassion naturally flow forth. As Way so eloquently pointed out in the sermon last February, the good fight for justice and peace that is rooted in genuine love will sustain us long after the anger and rage burn out. Is that right? Okay, good. As adults, we tend to take ourselves quite seriously, don't we? This talk, I'm afraid, is my exhibit A. But what if we have it wrong? What if it's all some kind of cosmic joke? Alan Watts was one of the most influential writers during the 1950s and 1960s on Eastern spirituality. It is interesting, said he, that Hindus, when they speak of the creation of the universe, do not call it the work of God, they call it the play of God. The Vishnu Leela, the Leela meaning play, and they look upon the whole manifestation of all the universes as a play, as a sport, as a kind of dance. In another place, Watts stated that, quote, people suffer only because they take as serious what the gods made for fun. Does this mean that we say to our unenlightened friends who have suffered a loss, lighten up, get over it already? Why the sad face? It's all fun and games. Most of us, if not all of us, would justifiably recoil, I expect, from entertaining such a suggestion. Yet, if there is any truth in what Watts was pointing to, is it possible to reconcile these two apparently contradictory ideas? Life as Shakespearean drama versus life as late-night comedy. How can we live with the latter sensibility while continuing to cultivate reverence, humility, awe, and respect for all sentient and non-sentient existence? These are questions I invite you to play with in the days and weeks ahead. And as we reevaluate, perhaps, the role of play in our spiritual aspirations, let us become what the aphorism says: once an adult, twice a child. Not in the conventional sense that as life slowly ebbs, we become dependent again on others for care, but as someone whose heart still beats with spirited laughter, no matter how old we are.
It's a ringing endorsement.
Well, I just want to say that with my sober Germanic and Scottish heritage, you can see what a blessing Alan is in my life. This poem really gets me. On turning 10. It's a little more about the serious side of what Alan spoke of. The whole idea of it makes me feel like I'm coming down with something. Something worse than any stomach ache or the headaches I get from reading in bad light, a kind of measles of the spirit, a mumps of the psyche, a disfiguring chicken pox of the soul. You tell me it is too early at 10 to be looking back, but that is because you have forgotten the perfect simplicity of being one and the beautiful complexity introduced by 2. But I can lie on my bed and remember every digit. At 4, I was an Arabian wizard. I could make myself invisible by drinking a glass of milk a certain way. At 7, I was a soldier. At 9, a prince. But now, I am mostly at the window watching the late afternoon light. Back then, it never fell so solemnly against the side of my treehouse. And my bicycle, it never leaned against the garage as it does today. All the dark blue speed drained out of it. Oh, this is the beginning of sadness, I say to myself, as I walk through the universe in my sneakers. It is time to say goodbye to my imaginary friends. Time to turn the first big number. It seems only yesterday I used to believe there was nothing under my skin but light. If you cut me, I would shine. But now, if I fall upon the sidewalks of life, I skin my knees. I bleed.
Thank you, Barbara. I have the pleasure right now of serving you as a guide for meditation, as you are comfortable doing so. If you would like to get settled into your chair, put both of your feet on the floor. Reach your spine up to the ceiling. Make sure we're not crouching down, just so that air and the breath can come cleanly into you and come back out. And that's what I invite you to do right now, is to take a very deep breath and push it into your belly. Just breathe in and let that stomach expand. We too often breathe into our chest, but the better breath is taken deep into our abdomen. So take a deep breath. And again. Now, if you're comfortable doing so, I invite you to close your eyes. If you're not, that's okay. Breathe again. Breathe into your nose. And breathe out of your mouth. Take in freshness. And blow out. Again. I'm going to invite you to go someplace that you remember pleasurably. You could be sitting beside the ocean. Late in the evening, listen to the waves come in. Taking a quiet walk through the forest. Standing on the top of a mountain. Sitting in your backyard, listening to the laughter of your children. Go to that place where you find joy and happiness and peace. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. While you're sitting there, comfortable in that place that you found, I would like for you to take your mind back. Sometime recently, when you really had fun, when you played, when there was joy coming into your eyes and your heart and your soul. Take a deep breath. Settle in with joy in your heart. Now, in the quiet space of happiness, I invite you to cast your mind backwards through the years and think of the very first thing that comes in your mind when you were a kid and just having a good time. Breathe it in. See that kid that you were, playing in the mud, building a castle in the sand, baking cookies with your grandmother, playing with your dog, listening to your cat purr. Just watching that child, just being happy. Sit there for a moment, just watching the pleasure of the child that you were, that moment of happiness and play. Now quietly walk up and tap that little self on the shoulder and tell yourself hello. Are you playing? Can I play with you? Join with you. And whatever's going on that makes you happy, take a few moments and just enjoy that. There's something this little person that you were that they know about play that you may have forgotten. Ask the question, how to play does play mean to you? What do you think it would mean to me? Have a conversation in your mind with this child. Find the wisdom of that small person that you were before you forgot what it is to play. Listen. I invite you now to step away. Tell that child, thank you. Thank you. Now I'd like to ask you to take 3 breaths deep into your belly. Again. Deep into your belly. Now, before you open your eyes, think once again about what you learned about play with that child that was you. And remember it. Take a deep, slow breath and open your eyes. Thank you.
Our closing hymn is number 16. 'Tis a gift to be simple. Thank you. Every once in a while, make no plans. Have the nerve to walk out the door and let possibilities introduce themselves. Wander. Imagine. Stare. Be surprised. Parades will find you. Travel in your armchair, with a book, on a boat, in a car, in your thoughts, on a bike, or any vehicle that will take you away from the walls of your own knowing to someplace other. Other gestures, smells, words, tastes, views. Look upon the world through windows other than your own. Learn to be good company for yourself. A bit of joy passes by because there was no one to go with. A party of one is sometimes the best time. Dance by yourself. Anywhere there is room in your house. There is something invigorating, even a bit of magic to music, to movement, and a touch of laughter. Go ahead, dance. Enjoy participating in the unexpected. A little turn of whimsy is a gift. A quick, cool rain shower on a hot, dusty day. Enjoy flowers for no reason. Visit an old friend. Greet a stranger. Tell a sweet little joke in line at the grocery store. What did the snail say as he climbed on the back of the turtle? Whee! Play can happen anywhere. You are the toy.
In extinguishing this light, may we remind ourselves of our own light, one that can help point us in the right direction and guide others on their chosen paths.